Hey folks, just a heads up for upcoming live events as part of the Spooky Spectacular. We'll be doing a live stream and live recording event at Arcane in Durham, North Carolina on September 29th. Charlie will be at the Abbeville Upstate Spirit Conference in Abbeville, South Carolina. I'll be at Splatterflix in Durham at the Carolina Theater. And beyond spooky season, we'll both be at Retcon in Cary in February of 2023. There are links to all of those and more information in the show notes to this episode. Thanks a lot.
You are listening to Arcane Carolinas, an exploration of the Carolinas' folklore, legends, myths, and modern weird. Each episode, we examine the historical context of our topic and aim to preserve some of the stories that help make this part of the world such a fascinating place. All right. Could you close that door just so the din of the noise? Maybe just like leave it cracked. I don't know. I want to see.
No, people will know. People know that they can come in if they want to.
Yeah.
They better be quiet.
I want people to feel welcome. I really do. But also I want to be able to hear because otherwise it's going to get real weird. Yes. As we were joined by talking head Michael. Hi, Michael.
Yeah, I am Max Headroom for this, as Kate pointed out.
You can't see me, but I can see you. I'm over here.
That's hey. Hey. Oh, yay. Oh, I love it. I'm so happy. I feel like very snug in the middle, It's very cozy.
So welcome to Arcane Carolinas with Strange Animals podcast at ConCarolinas 2022.
Woo!
You, Shaw.
I'm your co-host, award-winning novelist Michael G. Williams, who is used to interacting with people from the other side of a keyboard. So here I am on the other side of a keyboard coming to you live from Durham, North Carolina.
Hi, I'm Kate Shaw, and I don't have anything to do with Arcane Carolinas. I'm from Tennessee. But I do have a podcast about strange animals because it's called Strange Animals Podcast.
And it's
great.
Awesome.
Well, thank you.
You've got some swag, I see.
Yes, I have a book out. It is available to purchase if you like. Also, I have free stickers. They say, Bigfoot believes in you.
And I really appreciate that sticker. And now I have one, and I'm going to put it in a place of prominence. We also have some swag. There's little goodie bags over there on the chairs. Feel free to grab some. If you have a friend that you think would like them, grab two. Take as many as you want. They're there to be taken. So I know there's some people in the room that have heard Arcane Carolinas before. Is there anyone that has not heard Arcane Carolinas before? Okay.
You should totally listen.
Okay. So let me break down the format. Generally, what we do is we'll take a legend or a piece of lore. We'll explore geographically where that comes from. We'll then explore the legend, like with no judgment. This is the legend. And then we'll go into either the science or history behind the legend. So Kate is filling in on the science side tonight because we're going to talk about a cryptid. And I was like, you know what? Michael made the suggestion and was like, we should talk to Kate from Strange Animals podcast. I was like, if she's willing to do it, yes. So I'm going to do a little bit of the history and the legend. Michael's going to comment and then Kate's going to take it away.
Yeah. We're going to learn some stuff today.
Yes. So today's legend comes from a town 25 miles north of Fayetteville, North Carolina on the Cape Fear River. It is essentially swallowed up these days by the towns of Dunn and Irwin. But once upon a time, there was an actual town called I'm going to mispronounce this. Averisboro.
How do you spell it?
Averas Borough.
Oh, I would probably go with Averisboro.
I heard it. I really tried to figure it out, but like the dictionary, like how do you pronounce this word on Google, said it different than the videos that I found on YouTube. And I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to botch it. It's fine. It's not even a town anymore. Who's going to yell at me? The people in the non-existent towns? They don't care.
Yeah, exactly. I say let's challenge the people who live in this non-existent town to email us at arcanecarolinas@gmail.com with the correct pronunciation. And if they don't, then we must be right.
We're going to get some emails from beyond the grave.
Yeah.
Some furious ghost from Aversborough is like, don't show them. This is how you say it.
Let me tell you, if you don't think this is how history books get written, then you just haven't met enough historians.
So the area, we'll call it an area, right? So the area is in Harnett County, which was formed in 1855 from a piece of Cumberland County. A lot of times when we're looking at areas that were formed from other counties, we see where they come from multiple counties, like, Chatham and Orange might agree to each give up a piece to form something else. That's not the case in this one. It was Cumberland County just said, you're out. Kicked a bunch of people out. And then Harnett County was born. It was named for the American Revolutionary War soldier Cornelius Harnett. And prior to European settlers arriving, it was Tuscarora territory. And around the mid-1720s, it was a hotspot for Scottish immigrants. And it was a really big deal as a trading hub because of its location on the river. And we're going to do a little bit of noise control. Thank you. I appreciate that. It was a big trading hub on the Cape Fear River. I would not say that it was the New York of North Carolina. To tie into a comparison that Michael made in a previous talk this evening. But it was a big deal. Post-Civil War, in the face of railroad expansion and economic shifts, it sort of dwindled away to the point that by 1887, it was considered to not exist as a town anymore.
That's even pretty early for towns to start disappearing at the end of the clear cutting and railroads phase.
Yeah. It just got swallowed up. I mean, obviously Dunn is there and is huge.
Yeah.
Well, huge comparatively. Dunn's not going.
Yeah.
Dunn's not going anywhere.
Dunn exists and we can mispronounce it and be corrected.
They have some very nice billboards. I actually drove through Dunn this week. I'm looking at the computer like you can see me and we're making eye contact right now.
Okay, how about I do this? But I feel like when you say about a town, I drove through it and they had some really nice billboards. You're saying something about the town and it's not about their billboards.
All right, you know what? I'm going to go there then. I'm going to take the exit and I'm going to go. The next time I'm driving on the highway, I'm going to actually go. And I just did look at the computer thing again. I'm really sorry that you can't.
What's funny is when he looks off the side like he's looking at you, he's actually looking at the right side and up.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm good at this. I've done the Zoom thing before.
It's like the Brady Bunch.
It's actually just like a little AI thing. Michael's not real. There's the real behind the curtain.
I've spent my entire life waiting to be the guy in Center Square in Hollywood Squares, so I've been practicing.
So, of note today, there is a battlefield and museum. Allegedly, it shows up. I'm pretty sure it's like a dude's house because it shows up on Google Maps. Like you can find it. Like the Aversborough Battlefield Museum is there. Like it has an address. You can go there. But if you read the reviews and the comments on YouTube and Facebook, it sounds like your mileage may vary by experience. Some people say that it's not really a thing and you go and you'll pay them and then they'll be like, oh yeah, these are the locations, but you can't go to them because they're private property. So thank you.
Here's your very expensive map.
So I'm not advocating to go and patronize this business, but I will acknowledge that it exists. What does definitely exist is Carolina Skateland. They have a roller rink. That's in Dunn. Like I said, it's all been swallowed up by Dunn. And there's a place called Gabriella's that does Peruvian chicken, which is also in Dunn. All right, you know what, Michael? I'm going to Dunn. I'm going to Gabriella's.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I see a billboard for it.
Like you're selling me on Dunn now.
I like Peruvian chicken, and I'm going to go. And the next time I'm in Dunn, that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to eat there, and I'm not going to go to Skateland because I can't roller skate. But anyway, that's the town where this legend comes from. And this town goes way back and is pretty cool because it spans multiple cultures as well, which always makes it interesting to me where I'm like, it might be my new favorite cryptid, which is a big order to fill. But we're going to talk about the Aversborough. I've said it like 5 different ways just in the last 10 minutes. I can't pronounce it.
See, this is good. You're creating sort of a scattershot approach to how to pronounce it. So somewhere in here, it's correct. And that'll be a fun game for people who listen to figure out which one it is.
Throw enough darts and you'll hit the board eventually.
Exactly.
So the gallinipper is the name of the creature. It's a gigantic mosquito, and I hate mosquitoes, but I love this legend.
Nice.
So a Tuscarora chief by the name of Elias Johnson, aka Pine Tree, was an 1800s era transcriber of his tribe's history and lore. And he wrote about the legend of a mosquito as large as a man called Roteo. And his description was, it flew about with vast wings, making a loud noise with a long stinger. Whomsoever it lighted, it sucked out all the blood and killed him.
Oh, gosh. Wow.
Many warriors were destroyed in this way. All attempts to subdue it were in vain. So it's like the Godzilla of mosquitoes.
Yeah, my God. I've written vampire novels and I'm freaked out a little bit by this.
The chief goes on in his 1800s era transcripts that eventually the creature's heart was pierced by an arrow from a distance, and from it exploded many small mosquitoes.
Oh, sorry. That's disgusting.
Yeah, right? So it's like a horror thing. Like it's like a cryptid, but it's also horror. Interestingly enough, North Carolina Cherokee lore has a version of the Tuscarora Roteo myth. In their version, however, it's a giant yellow jacket.
Oh.
Even worse.
Called
They're so mean.
Ulagu. It's spelled Ulagu. So Ulagu. And the Cherokee legend states that the Ulagu was large enough to swoop down and pick up children and carry them back to its lair, which sounds like something my grandmother would tell me, like when I was a kid, if I was acting up. So like that.
Yeah.
But its lair was a cave in Western North Carolina. I am not going to attempt to pronounce the word, but it translates to where the yellow jacket was.
It's not exactly the Averisboro of names, you know.
Right. So there's a lot of consonants in it, and I'm going to mess it up, so I'm not going to butcher that. But it does translate in English to where the yellow jacket was. Their legend states, this is the Cherokee legend, states that the giant bug was killed by warriors and a bunch of regular yellow jackets swarmed out of it. So same thing, right? Like they killed it, a bunch of little bugs came out. So both regional. So this is like regional, right? Like they're not like hyper local to each other, but they are regional. And the legends where modern insects were created when the giant one was killed is pretty cool. The gallinipper is also a cryptid in African American folk tradition, described as a species of giant mosquitoes so big their bones could fence a 140-acre field.
Oh.
So you kill one, yeah, like they wouldn't have like an exoskeleton. It would have like it's folklore.
Specific.
Yeah. Right. It's like a hyper specific legend. And the sources on this were, they're books and there's multiple books and they all repeat the same thing. So I'm like, all right, well, somebody came up with this hyper specific thing at some point and it has been repeated and we are still in legend territory. So I'm putting it in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do like that you balked at bones. You're like, they don't have bones.
Invertebrates do not have bones.
It's right there in the name.
This
That's
is why
what "in" means in this case.
And one source said the Irish American immigrants working as lumbermen reported seeing monstrous mosquitoes along the Cape Fear River in the 1850s. So it's also an Irish American tradition to talk about these things. And that brings us to 1855 and today's actual legend, the cautionary tale of Red Saunders. Red was a lumberman, which is interesting because we just talked about lumbermen.
Yeah.
In another episode.
Yeah, we just did an episode about a person and their lumberman bow.
So he was a lumberman. The way the industry works is the crews that worked the lumber trade, they would move all over North Carolina. Like they would go where they would go where the lumber was and where the company they worked for sent them and whatever. So the story goes that in 1855, two work crews, one from Chatham County and the other was local to Averisboro
I believe you mean Everaceboro.
You just find every way to piss off people.
What you can't.
Yeah.
What you can't see is that I've now worked up a spreadsheet of all possible pronunciations, and I'm going to check them off as we go.
So here's a fun story about how I can't pronounce things sometimes. So there's a food called jicama. I had never seen jicama before, and the first time I saw jicama, I was like, "Hey, what's jicama?" I was 30.
It happens, you know.
It happens. Whatever. but like I said in the last session, I wrote all these words myself. I can read, I can write.
It's like we talked about. I grew up with readers' vocabulary because I grew up where like nobody used words that I read in books. And so I was 17 when I found out that it was not pronounced laboratory because I'd only ever heard it said on Doctor Who.
Right. Like Jacama. So,
Exactly.
or Aversboro.
Averisboro?
This town where there was 2 lumber crews, one from Chatham County and one local. And they found themselves working side by side, cutting trees, hauling logs out of a swampy area, right? So it's right on the river, swampy. They're working together. And apparently a rivalry grew between the 2 labor gangs, which, I could see that happening. Largely on account, though, of the leader from the Chatham County crew was a dude named Red Saunders, and he was a total blowhard. He loved talking trash and bragging. He was apparently such a piece of work, came up with one of the dumbest dares ever to shut him up. And they said, "Oh, Red, you're the biggest, baddest dude. Oh, only thing tougher than you are all these mosquitoes in the swamp."
And they're mini malarias.
Yes. So I am, Michael, what you just missed was I paused for a moment because the next thing that I'm about to say is so profoundly stupid. The dude said, "Oh yeah, watch this," and took his shirt off and laid in the mud and said, "I can do this for an hour." And he proceeded to lay there and get bit by mosquitoes for near an hour. And they were just like, "What is wrong with this guy?" And so like he was getting eaten up and they were just like, "This dum-dum, he's just," and they realized that he was gonna, no matter how much he suffered, he was gonna get up and he was gonna brag and be obnoxious and whatever. So one dude went over to the fire that they had going and took out a hot coal and threw it on his back and screamed, "Ah, gallon nipper, look out!" Which is awesome and hilarious. And apparently it shut him up for a minute until like a week later, he was just like, "I'm so tough, the gallon nipper can't kill me."
Completely insufferable person is always going to be insufferable.
I can think of one person that this reminds me of. So was Red Saunders a real dude? Like, this is part of what we do. We explore that. I couldn't verify that he existed. I found a ton of Saunders surnames in North Carolina birth and death records that even matched the time. Some with the first initial R. I was like, dude probably wasn't actually named Red. Like that was probably a nickname, right? So I don't know if he was real or not. I say yes. The legend persisted for so long. I say yes. But is the gallon nipper real? And does it exist? Well, the answer to that is kind of. Like it kind of exists. Supposedly the legend was kept alive for years by a bar that had hanging from its ceiling a bird skeleton that they had modified to like look like the shape of a giant mosquito. And they said it was the Aversboro gallon nipper. Kind of like the old what do they call the jackalopes? Yeah. Kind of like the jackalope. So like, over and done, they had one. I couldn't find the name of the bar. But like every article that I found online was like, "Oh, there was a skeleton in a bar." And I'm like, huh. So when I say it kind of exists, there is a species of uniquely large mosquito that's indigenous to the United States, specifically east of the Continental Divide. That's going to make for good radio. Phora ciliata is its Latin name, and it is known, its common name is the gallon nipper mosquito. So the legend was big enough that a scientist actually named this species. It's, it has its Latin name and it has its common name, and named it the gallon nipper.
I like it.
Yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Kate to talk about stuff.
Well, I think this was where I was supposed to share some information about real mosquitoes, but guess who did not research that? Instead, we're going to learn about something really interesting. And I have to deploy my granny glasses here because I can't see what I've written otherwise. At dawn on Saturday, April 17th, 1880, a man living about 3 miles south of Raleigh, which would probably be well within the city limits these days, but I didn't look it up. He stepped out of his front door and he saw what looked like big gray snowflakes drifting down all around his yard. they weren't snowflakes, or else I wouldn't be talking about them now. They were bugs. They were alive bugs falling from the sky. And when they reached the ground, they weren't dead. They crawled around and they were unhurt. And there were thousands and thousands and thousands of them. The rain of bugs continued until the sun came up, and then it stopped and the chickens ate them. So it was okay. I could not find a description of them, which drives me completely up the wall. This is all from newspaper accounts from back in the day. And they never give a good description of these bugs. It was 1880. So it may or may not actually be true, but it might just be space filler, but you know what? It's really awesome. So the occurrence was reported in the Raleigh Observer. And a few days later, a newspaper called the Reidsville Times ran a similar article. Reidsville is north of Greensboro, and it's a good 80 miles northwest of Raleigh. I did look that up. On Friday night, and remember, the first rain of bugs that was reported was Saturday at dawn. So the previous night, around dusk on April 16th, 1880, so approximately 12 hours before the bugs fell in Raleigh, a shower of little gray bugs fell over Reidsville. Maybe these things are connected.
Do we know that they're bugs and not aliens?
We don't know that because we don't have a description.
Exactly. Why isn't there a description?
There were so many bugs in this case that they got into houses and they filled yards by the thousands. And in both articles, just to let you know, science, the breeze was blowing from the east. So at least it was
sea
consistent.
bugs.
Sea bugs.
They came from the ocean.
From the east, or I don't know.
That can make sense. Right?
Yeah.
East from and it can blow towards right.
Yeah. It works out. I don't know. I get east and west mixed up. So, so the Observer ran a follow-up article about the event, and they didn't add much because they were at this point just wanting to get a little dig into the Reidsville Times. They referred to the Reidsville Times as Tom Evans's chatty little paper, which is probably the best thing I read all day. The insects, like I said, they're barely described. They were dull gray in color and, quote, something less in size than a grain of corn, unquote.
Okay.
So they're described as falling lightly. They're not flying, but there's no mention if they had wings, if they were hard-bodied like beetles, or if they were soft-bodied like aphids. And honestly, I have spent so much time looking up little gray bugs online, usually during my lunch break, actually, which don't do that.
Michael, leave that part in.
Yeah, I'm definitely that part.
We're digging her out of that hole. We're digging her out of that hole. Come on.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to eat lunch and look at bugs. Just, who would? Entomologists would love that. But anyway, so another newspaper, the Alamance Gleaner. I don't know, Alamance.
Yeah, right? It's Burlington. It's between Raleigh and Reidsville.
Oh my gosh, you even know where it is. So the Alamance Gleaner of Graham, North Carolina.
Oh, I know where Graham is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
I got an oil change there.
Were you led there by a billboard?
You know me so well.
I do.
Well, the Alamance Gleaner suggested the bugs were just a swarm of winged wood ants, quote, aided by some imagination, unquote. So they were probably just jealous. They didn't get the rain of bugs.
They didn't get the scoop.
Yeah. So now winged ants do have nuptial flights, and they can be enormous. I actually did a segment on this in some episode like a million years ago because I've been doing my podcast way too long. So I don't remember what episode, but they can show up on radar. Sometimes they even catch the light to the degree that people look at it and see a glow in the distance and they think they're seeing like a UFO, but it's just ants. Those winged ants, like when you're like taking a walk in the evening in the summer and maybe there's been some rain earlier and suddenly you're covered with ants with wings. Yeah, that's a nuptial flight. They're all going to mate. Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, it's disgusting. Nature is gross.
I love the fact that the person with the podcast about animals is like, oh, it's so gross. It's disgusting.
Well, it is, but that's okay.
Yeah,
it's just, that's how it is. It's pretty gross to be in a body, but it's also pretty cool. I mean, we're not incorporeal. I don't know.
It's a lot of the alternatives.
I should just go stick to the ants. Okay.
I will note.
Let's get weird. We can do this.
I will note you said it was, not fun to eat lunch and look at bugs. And what I immediately wrote in the notes that I'm taking is better to eat lunch and look at bugs than to eat bugs and look at lunch.
Oh, Oh, thanks for that.
You're welcome. I'm always here to make sure that you know that it could be worse.
Good. You write horror, right?
Yeah, I do.
I'm not gonna read any of your books.
I don't either.
Yeah, no,
It's okay.
it's okay. Like nobody does. It's cool.
Hey, that's not what I meant. Oh, I was making a joke. So let's give a little bit of context for that joke. So last year at ConCarolinas, somebody came up to me and was like, "Oh, what book of Michael should I start with?" And I went, "I don't know." and they were like, well, "What's your favorite one?" And I went, I haven't read it. I mean, he's right over there. Why don't you just go ask him? And it was just kind of funny. And Michael and I got a really good laugh about that.
Yeah.
He was like, he was just
And
like,
then he punched you.
And then
It
it was just really funny.
It's very important to me that nobody who knows me feels obligated to read any of them.
Well, because then it happened again was the thing. And then it became like, okay, well, this is just going to be a running joke. And now I can't.
Yeah, no, now he's not allowed to. No, I don't want him to.
Yeah.
I forever want his answer to be, beats me.
I don't know. Pick the one with the cover you like best.
Yeah,
That always works anyway.
the money all spends the same. I don't care.
So anyway, wing dance. I don't think that's what they were, because they would have just said wing dance fell from the sky. I mean, everybody knows what those are.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they're big enough that they show up on radar? That's crazy to me.
A big mass of them.
Yeah, because what happens is, okay, this isn't even in my script, but I happen to know this because I did research like 2 years ago about this, and somehow it stuck. Yeah, so the ants, they generally come out in the evenings for these nuptial flights, and it's like the next generation of the ant colony.
Okay.
They grow rings. They grow pretty little rings. They broke. Oh my gosh! Now I can't talk. This is why I yell at myself when I record all the time. They grow wings, but not all of them. Not all species of ants do this. So, but just generally summer evenings. This is just scintillating. Everybody's riveted. It's
We
in
are.
the evening.
I actually don't go.
Like, I'm super into it.
It's usually summer evenings, sometimes spring evenings, and it's usually after some rain. So that actually, because they need a certain amount of moisture in the air, so they all come out at once. And sometimes it's just one colony, but a lot of times a lot of colonies in the area will join together, and sometimes they get enormous. Literally, they will show up on radar, just like smoke
so
clouds
cool.
or
That's a
and
party.
that allows them to blend colonies, and genetics get mixed up, and
Mm-hmm.
The gene pool deepens.
Migration, so it's kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Animals congregate.
yeah, it's pretty cool what animals will do to make sure that the gene pool gets mixed up real good. But that's not the worst thing that's ever fallen from the sky in North Carolina. I can't-
The bomb that fell.
The what? The bomb?
Yeah, we did an episode.
We did an episode on that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
what? I missed it.
We had there was a nuclear bomb that fell.
Oh, I forgot about that.
So-
Yes. Oh,
There,
yeah. No, I mean, I guess that probably was the worst thing, but it didn't actually go off. So,
No?
so no.
there have been multiple.
I forgot.
There have been multiple accidental bomb droppings in North Carolina, and one of them was a conventional bomb that went off and created a massive crater, and we did an episode about that. Two of them were nukes that did not go off. Thank goodness.
I live about 20 minutes from Oak Ridge, Tennessee, so I'm doomed. Yeah, that doesn't even faze me. Bombs.
Can I ask a question though,
sure.
like an animal question?
Yeah.
And you might be getting to this. So when heavy rains
He's obsessed with the flying ants.
and that triggers
Mm-hmm.
colonies to disperse,
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the next generation, so the ones
Yeah.
that are still there don't.
and it's warm weather, so like
Mhm.
they're
Nah,
not
yeah.
doing anything in the winter.
Nah.
What about springtime, right? Like when snow melts and rivers rise and like, I don't know. Basically, I'm trying to figure out how to not get so many mosquitoes at my house. Like, when should I be like dealing with standing water to avoid
Oh.
bugs with wings?
Well, I'm not an animal expert in any way, shape, or form. My degree is in elementary education. And my answer is, I don't know.
Okay. All right.
I did some vector analysis with Jackson County when I was in Western Carolina. I mean, the big thing is just make sure you don't have standing water. So if you've got even in the summer or spring when it starts to rain and you see accumulations, you might want to work on the drainage to try and divert that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't accumulate.
Yeah, that's gonna be
Malaria isn't the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want it.
Cool. Yeah, because I know that
helped.
that did help.
Okay.
Just see,
You're
we're here to
welcome.
help. We're here to help. Thank you. Thank you.
From Graham. So thank you for doing that.
An oil change there once.
There's a commemorative plaque now.
When I was driving in this morning, I had to stop for gas right before I got here because I was almost out. I'm like, traffic is slow. So I pulled off, and it turned out I was going into, what's the name of the town? Gastonia?
Yeah.
Is that how it's pronounced? I was really excited because I know what happened there. I'm going to talk about it here in a minute. It was so gross. If it really happened, I don't know. It's from the newspaper from the 1880s.
It happens.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, probably.
Well, it actually was earlier than that. Okay, it's several things that happened back in the day. This is the worst thing reported falling from the sky in the Carolinas, according to me. This happened about 13 miles southwest of the town of Clinton, North Carolina. I don't know where that is, but I did write down in Sampson County.
That's southeast of Raleigh.
Oh, okay. Well, I had written something kind of snarky here. I hope nobody's from Clinton here. I was going to tell you what cities it's close to, but it's not close to anything.
Yeah. It's basically a sign between Raleigh and Wilmington. There's like an exit. That's it.
Yeah. How are the billboards?
The billboards are all for Duplin County, for Duplin Winery. So, they're okay.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
I don't like Duplin Winery. It's too sweet. I like a nice dry red.
But they do, they use the, I forgot the name of them now, the like really big grapes, like huge grapes. And I love that because it's like drinking candy.
Well, okay, so let me tell you, on February 15th, 1850, near the home of Thomas M. Clarkson, and unlike Arcane Carolinas, I did not look up to see if he was real. Actually, I think he might have been. A cloud tinged with red hung in the sky. You can see where this is going.
Murder cloud.
A murder cloud hung in the sky. So a neighbor child ran home and said he smelled something like blood. Yeah, that's not good. So soon after, 3 of Thomas Clarkson's children also ran home yelling, "Mother, there's meat falling." So according to the newspapers anyway, flesh, guts, and blood rained down from the sky, scattered in a swath about 30 feet wide and 250 or 300 yards long, which seems really specific. There was fresh blood seen running down leaves, and the pieces of meat and guts looked fresh. There appeared to be brains, organs, flesh, and blood, but no bones reported. So by the time the children's mother went to investigate, the horrible rain had already stopped. There was no ordinary rain falling with the meat and blood. So, yeah.
My favorite Slayer song.
Yeah, now we all do.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's raining bugs. Raining bugs. I'm done. Thank you. Good night. That was it. It's all downhill from here. Just killed it. That was awesome.
Given the time period, I'm imagining somebody like walking out into this with their like very fancy parasol, and like, and then they're just like their fancy parasol is drenched in blood and guts. I love it. I also love the idea that somewhere there's a bunch of skeletons who have had all of the like viscera ripped from them by whatever carried this into the sky. And there's somebody elsewhere, like way west of Clinton, who's just like walked into a field and there's like 40 skeletons of something. And they're all like, where did all the blood go?
No, they're like, what are these galley-nipper bones here for?
Yes.
It covered 140 acres.
Yes. I love it.
That's a lot of bug bones. So a piece of the meat was sent to the North Carolinian office. That's a newspaper, weekly newspaper in Fayetteville. And they identified it as rotting meat. I mean, yes, obviously.
Looks like meat.
Good job, guys. Yeah. So this story has a lot in common with another newspaper account of falling meat. A more famous account, you may have heard of it. It's sometimes called the Kentucky Meat Shower. That happened 26 years later, though, in March 1876. In that case, there wasn't a red cloud hovering overhead. There weren't any clouds in the sky. Little chunks of meat, about 4 inches across at most, started falling all around a woman named Mrs. Crouch. That's we don't know her first name, but we do know she was making soap in the yard, which, I mean, yeah, I bet that smelled bad.
So
and then there was meat all in it. So,
Like, what do you use to clean soap?
I don't know, but I think Kentucky Meat Shower should be the new name of like whatever the bonus box is at KFC.
Right.
Like Taco Bell is like a $5 big box or whatever. Like, come on now, get the Colonel's Kentucky Meat Shower.
I'll never think of KFC the same again.
It's just every type of thing that they offer in one box.
Oh my God.
Can I get extra mashed potatoes with that?
Yeah, extra gravy is 50
that
cents
gravy
more.
is so good.
Kentucky Meat Shower makes its own gravy.
Pieces were irregular and gristly, which I had to share that because that's so nasty.
Irregular and grisly.
Irregular and gristly. That would be another good T-shirt.
That's my,
Scattered across.
that's my senior superlative.
Yeah. Yeah.
Irregular and grisly.
So that was
I
scattered.
know what my new Twitter bio is going to be.
I had to tell you it was scattered about 50 yards and 100 yards long. Apparently that was really important.
Football field worth of a viscera.
So, but in the same year, okay, that was 1876 was the Kentucky Meat Shower. That was March 1876.
Sorry, I can't with the Kentucky Meat Shower.
It's just inherently
I'm
funny.
keep saying it so
We are Kentucky Meat Shower. This is our hit, Raining Bugs.
So this is where Gastonia comes in. So in the same year,
They're from Clinton.
1876.
They're from Clinton, the band, Kentucky Meat Shower.
Yeah.
So in Gastonia, North Carolina, but on the afternoon of Saturday, October 28th, and this was also 1876, pieces of meat fell like hailstones in a cotton field. And the field belonged to James Hanna, who happened to be outside and saw it fall. He said it fell on a space about equal to 1 square rod, which works out to be 16 and a half feet on each side. So
Michael is the expert on the obscure measurements. I asked him what a cubit was once, and he knew.
I did. I had a conversion.
Google knows everything.
Yeah.
So, as reported in the 1850 account, someone brought a piece of the meat to the newspaper office and it was examined by microscope. Okay. That was super scientific.
We looked at it real close.
Yeah. No,
Sure does look like meat.
They said it looked like very specific. One unnamed man even tasted it and said it tasted like beef. It's like, and
I love these unnamed.
Yeah.
Listen, I'm going to taste it. Don't write my name down.
I feel like
looked it first.
I'm gonna lick it.
Like what a toddler does. Well, unnamed man was a 3-year-old.
welcome to 1850s Gastonia. This is Jackass.
Right.
Well, in the Kentucky Meat Shower, somebody actually reportedly tasted the meat too, and said it tasted like, I think, lamb or maybe venison. I don't remember now. I didn't look that up.
Gamey. Is it? Sky meat.
Why are we looking Sky Meat? Is
Kentucky
the
Meat
best.
Shower. The album is Sky Meat. The single is Raining Bugs. The band name is Kentucky Meat Shower. And they are from Clinton, North Carolina. Somebody make this happen. At least get a billboard.
Oh my God.
This is how it starts. This is how we start like a funny misinformation campaign. Wait, we just like, yes. Yeah, we just make this up and we see how far it can go on the internet. Have you heard them? They're really good. Oh, you don't know about? I'm into this band. You wouldn't know about them. I wish it. So grisly.
I liked them before they rotted.
Their follow-up single is "Tastes Like Beef."
Tastes like beef.
All right. So the parallels to the Kentucky meat shower case are so similar, and was reported only about 7 months before this one in the Gastonia paper. That feels a little suspicious. For one thing, the Kentucky meat shower is a little iffy in its own right. My own feeling is that it was a newspaper hoax, but maybe it wasn't.
Maybe it wasn't.
Yeah, nobody is really sure who it happened to. It's funny because a lot of these old newspaper accounts of things that were maybe not real, you can trace some of the information. It's usually like a really small town or a small community and a specifically named person doing a specifically named thing like making soap, Mrs. Crouch. They don't appear to exist, and nobody can find like a farmstead in the area and stuff like that. So maybe not.
One of the things that we have found like doing the show is that newspapers will pick up another paper's story, put their own wrapper on it and be like, oh yeah, this totally happens.
Exactly.
And it becomes sort of a fad. We saw this a lot with, I'm about to go down to UFO rabbit hole. I'm not going to do it. Skyship sightings.
Oh, sightings are so cool.
You know, in the 1800s, they're like, skyships. And then the next town up the coast would be like, we saw one too.
There were so many skyships and yet somehow there weren't.
Right. Save all that for another episode. You can come be a guest on that one because I could spend, we have 15 minutes. I could go for another 2 hours on that.
Well, I'm pretty much done with my part, but we're going to talk some science here about what might have caused meat showers, because people think it's vultures, and vultures do disgorge meat, but they don't do it while they're flying. It's like if you're running along and you're like, I guess I feel kind of weird. Blah. That doesn't happen to vultures because they're vultures. Stop running.
I was walking. So another thing that we like to do is share embarrassing personal stories.
Yes.
So it was, and I will always remember this because I was coming down with chicken pox.
Oh, no.
I was in 5th grade. It was picture day for Little League. And we went and we're like doing the pictures or whatever. And like the whole team's there. And I'm like walking back to the car. I'm like, man, I don't feel good. And I just start barfing as I'm walking. And I just kept walking and barfing and walking.
Would you say that was about a rod's worth?
Yeah, it might have been a rod's worth. Yeah, exactly. I just kept walking and barfing and walking and barfing and finally got to the car and was just like, all right, we got to go to the field and play. Cause like where you did the pictures was at a different spot than where the game was. And I was like, we got to play the game. My dad was like, no, because he basically watched me from the car, walked from getting my picture taken and just keep going. And I get there, I'm like, man, I don't feel too good, but we got to go. And he was like, no, we got to go. So I got home and then, like fever and all that. And the next day it was like, boom, chicken pox. And I was just like, huh. But like at the onset, I guess the fever made me lose my lunch. So it's interesting that other animals know better than to do that.
Well, I mean, vultures are a little bit specialized. I mean, you probably wouldn't want to eat what vultures eat.
No.
And they're like, oh, nom, nom, nom.
Carry on.
Yeah, carry on. But carry on, my wayward son always goes into my head. When I hear carry on, so I can't pronounce it that way. The main suggestion, like I said, of these meat showers is that vultures were flying overhead and disgorged some meat they had eaten, which was caught by the wind and fell across a wide area.
That's a lot of vultures.
That's a lot of vultures. But even nowadays, people think that's what it is. But vultures don't disgorge meat while they're flying. They disgorge it as a way to deter predators approaching their nest. So, and this has happened to my uncle. They had a nest of black vultures. He's got like this old barn in the back. He keeps like old rotting car parts in there. I don't know why you have a barn and you don't keep horses in it, but he
living my dream is what he's doing.
Yeah, well, he had a big nest of black vultures up in the
That's not
loft.
part of the dream.
No, it was not a good dream. And he didn't know they were up there. He just knew that it smelled kind of bad and he kept hearing noises. So he climbed up there and there were like these 3 ugly babies and they all just barfed all over the place. And he said the smell was indescribable.
Yeah, I'm sure it's awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awful. Nobody gets it.
Oh.
Never get times. I was so proud of that one. Everyone's just like, what? Is it about Carry On Again? Are you going to start singing? So, but yeah, the other time vultures disgorge me is if a predator approaches and they're at a feeding site, let's put it gently, and they need to get into the air quickly, they're just going to barf everything up so that they're lighter and they can get into the air.
Like Stan in South Park, when Wendy comes to talk to him and he gets nervous and he barfs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a natural
Except
response.
then he flies away.
Yeah. Stan's This episode is going to be gross.
We started with bugs, we ended with barf.
This is going to be great.
This is the best ever.
It's going to legitimately be great.
Put a trigger warning on it.
So they don't disgorge while flying. And not only that, but I looked this up because I didn't want y'all to have to do it. Any meat disgorged by a vulture would smell and taste horrible. It would not smell like beef. And if you touched it, it would actually sting because vultures have really, really caustic digestive juices. They can digest bones and they can do it very quickly. They have to have a fast digestive process because they eat a lot of things that might be full of bacteria and things you don't want to get. And vultures are good for the environment because they get a lot of diseased food. Well, they think it's food. They get a lot of diseased meat from diseased animals that died. They take it out of the system so nothing else gets sick from it. So don't shoot vultures. Not that anyone here would do that. You guys are awesome. So yeah, I don't think it was vultures.
I got scared by a vulture once.
What did you do to it?
I think I've told the story on the podcast before. Michael, you've certainly heard it. I was exploring a abandoned building as a young man that would do these sorts of activities. We thought there was a person upstairs because we heard like across the floor. We're like, oh no, there's somebody in there. And it was terrifying. We ran out of the house and hid and watched the house, watched it. And nothing came out and no one came out. There was no signs. So it's we're going back in. So we went back in. All right, we're going to poke our head up there. So we crawled up into the attic, and of course I went first. And I stuck my head up. I was it's a giant bird. And basically a vulture had gotten in there, and, was hanging out.
Did it say I would have gotten away from it?
It didn't throw up at me.
If it hadn't been with meddling kids,
it didn't throw up at me.
Well, you're lucky.
Yeah,
that would have been gross.
That would have been real gross.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for doing all that. Thank you for doing all that research.
A couple of additional thoughts and notes. One, I love the fact that the Gallinipper has the legend of getting pierced through the heart with an arrow because it's very dragon-like. Yeah. I like the way that that's sort of a dragon legend as well. But also, I'm curious if anybody ever ate the chickens that ate the bugs that fell in Raleigh. I would love to know what happened to those chickens. Did they just go about the rest of their natural or unnatural lives blithely unaware that they'd eaten magic space bugs? Or did they fall over dead the next day?
It's maybe it was manna, but for chickens.
Right. Yeah. Maybe it was the chickens are we have won the lottery.
They still tell that story to other chickens.
Yes, totally.
This happens.
They call it the rain of bugs.
Yes, they do. And also the Raleigh Observer. That's one of the best preserved historical newspapers in North Carolina, and we have drawn from it many times. And if you have access to newspapers.com through a school or a library, you can read all kinds of crazy stuff in the Raleigh Observer. And it's definitely one of the papers that would love to reprint stories from elsewhere in the country and had their own stories reprinted and stuff like that. And lastly, among my notes for this, Thomas Clarkson of Sampson County did exist, is listed in the rolls of Confederate veterans who received a pension. So he was a real person.
That's awesome. Does it say anything about the blood and the meat?
No, not in his pension records, but I mean, I don't know. If that had happened to me in 1850, I probably still would have been telling the story 15 years later. But yeah, no, he was a real, at least there was a real person with that name is what I should say.
That's awesome.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah, you were quite welcome.
It's really weird that I don't know, man. This is different and weird. And thank you all for being here. And Michael, thank you for agreeing to do it this way.
Thank you for being willing to be the half that could show up.
Yeah. 1.5. I'm not doing it solo. It's 1.5.
But no, thank you all for coming and checking out our talk and our podcast. And please take some of the free stuff that's over there. Please follow Strange Animals Podcast.
Yes.
Get a sticker.
Get a sticker. I got a sticker. I'm excited.
Get a narwhal pen from Strange Animals Podcast. They are so cool.
I do have some for sale. They're really tiny. Look, they're blue. Look, it's tiny blue narwhal. I also have books for sale if you want one.
And I have books for sale at the Falstaff Books Mothership outside.
Yeah. But I don't think anybody's out there selling books right now because everybody is in panels right now. You walk by and it's like nothing but sheets over books.
Mm-hmm. But John will happily sell you a ton of books tomorrow.
And they all look awesome.
If you are a convention goer, Arcane Carolinas will be at Congregate in Winston-Salem next month. We will be at GalaxyCon in Raleigh next month. We will be going way into the future now. But if you are anywhere near Durham, North Carolina, we will be doing a special Halloween kickoff thing at the end of September in Durham at a bar called Arcane. After that, we will be in Abbeville, South Carolina for the Upstate Spirit Conference the first weekend in October, if you're so inclined to go to something like that. So there's my pitch. Thank you for putting up with it. I swear it will be more fun than listening to me talk about it.
And if you show up to any of those things in person, and I'm there, obviously I can't do it right now, I will pull a tarot card and give you a 1-card reading on the spot.
Oh, there you go.
Cool.
Hey, you've never done that for me.
No, I haven't.
You don't read his book.
Exactly. You know,
Yeah. Hey, I know that they involve the word autumn.
that's true. They do. Several of them do.
What's the new one, Michael?
It is New Life in Autumn. It's the sequel to A Fallen Autumn, which won the Manly Wade Wellman Award from the North Carolina Speculative Fiction Foundation.
That was a beautiful segue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Plug in there.
Sometimes we're really good at that.
Yeah, sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Just like when we set up arcanecarolinas.com where you can get t-shirts.
Or michaelgwilliamsbooks.com. Well, this has been really, really fun. Thanks, y'all, for coming.
Thanks, folks.
This was fun. Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much, Kate, for doing this. This is such a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me. This was great.
I really, really love Strange Animals Podcast. Strange Animals Podcast is like top of my grocery shopping listening. I love it. It's really great.
Well, I was going to ask, what are you on, like Spotify?
Oh, yeah, you can pretty much subscribe everywhere. I mean, there may be some places that it just hasn't populated to. And if so, just send me an email. I'll fix it. Strange Animals Podcast. They're very short episodes. They're usually about 15 minutes long, and they're about animals. Sometimes they're cryptids and sometimes they're not, but it is always science-based.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
You've been listening to Arcane Carolinas. Thanks for joining us. If you liked it, give us a rating, leave a comment. If you didn't like it, send us an email and tell us why. If you're not wrong, we'll try to fix it.
And if you're interested in award-winning speculative fiction, including science fiction, urban fantasy, and horror, find me, Michael G. Williams, at www.michaelgwilliamsbooks.com and check out Falstaff Books at falstaffbooks.com.
If you'd like to pick up some Arcane Carolinas merch, look at behind-the-scenes info, pictures, videos, stuff like that, all the things that get cut, check out arcanecarolinas.com, where you can get access to our Patreon, our Facebook, our Twitter, our Instagram, all that in one place, including the merch store. Buy a shirt.
Clothe your body.
Drape your body in our wares.
Be our living billboards.
The Continental Divide. That's going to make for good radio.
Yeah.
Michael, definitely edit that part out.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Oh.
All that's gonna go. Don't worry.